take their seats. And once again, keep your phones in silent. Thank you.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm starting.
Good morning, distinguished guests, speakers, and all the participants. It's a great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to the first NKN annual workshop being organized here at IIT Bombay. This workshop is a joint collaboration of NIC and IIT Bombay. It intends to give a common platform to bring together representatives from all institutes across the country connected to NKN. A very warm welcome to all of you. National Knowledge Network is a first of its kind high bandwidth network that has been set up in the country with the objective of connecting over 1,500 institutions of higher education, science and research across India. It also aims to facilitate education in emerging high technology areas like bio and nanotechnology, cloud computing, collaborative research for climate modeling, etc. The target users of our NKN are the institutes engaged in generation, dissemination, and consumption of knowledge across various areas such as research laboratories, universities, and other institutions of higher learning. Going forward, it shall enable scientists, researchers, and students from varied backgrounds and geographies to work closely for advancing human development in critical and emerging areas. It is a matter of immense pride for us that since its inception in 2010, more than 820 institutes have already been connected to this project. The institutes covered belong to diverse categories such as medical, engineering, research, ISRO, thereby impacting a large number of communities and people alike. The theme of the workshop is the E-infrastructure of India. This workshop will showcase live demonstration of applications and technologies indicating the potential of NKN. We are pleased to have in the midst of us very eminent and distinguished guests who would motivate us with their wide-ranging experiences and ideas. May I now welcome our distinguished guests. Please welcome Mr. Sam Pitroda, Advisor to the Prime Minister of India on Public Information Infrastructure and Innovation.
Morning.
Mr. Pitroda will be joining us over VC, as can be seen. I would like to invite on the dais Dr. Rajagopala Chitambram, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India and Chairman High Level Committee NKN. Please, sir. I would like to welcome Mr. J. Satyanarayana, Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. Oh, he'll be joining us shortly. He's not here yet. He'll be joining us shortly. He too would be joining us over VC. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. B.K. Gairola, Mission Director, E-Governance, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India.
Morning.
Dr. Gairola will also be joining us over VC as is apparent. Please welcome Dr. Y.K. Sharma, Director General, National Informatics Center.
Good morning.
Dr. Sharma will be addressing us over VC. I would like to welcome on the dais Professor S.V. Raghavan, Scientific Secretary at the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on the dais Dr. Mahesh Chandra, Deputy Director General, National Informatics Center. Please welcome on the dais Professor P.S. Dekne, Consultant to the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India and former Associate Director, E&I Group, BARC, Mumbai. Please welcome Professor Devang Kakkar, Director, IIT Bombay. Thank you, sir. May I request Mr. Channa to please extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Pitroda with a bouquet of flowers.
Oh, I didn't know that. Hey. I didn't know that there'll be a remote.
To welcome Dr. B.K. Gairola, may I request for a bouquet of flowers from Mr. Channa?
Thank you. Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I request Mr. Tripathi to please welcome Dr. Y.K. Sharma with a bouquet of flowers?
Thank you. Right. That was done.
Mr. Rajesh Gupta is requested to please welcome Dr. Rajagopala Chitambram with a flower bouquet. Can Mrs. Savita Gawali please give a bouquet of flowers to Professor S.V. Raghavan to welcome him? Can I request Mr. Anand Lade to welcome Dr. Mahesh Chandra with a bouquet of flowers? Can I once again request Mr. Rajesh Gupta to give a bouquet of flowers to Professor P.S. Dekne to welcome him? Can Mrs. Savita Gowari please welcome Professor Devang Kakkar with a bouquet of flowers? I now request all dignitaries to please proceed for lighting of the ceremonial lamp. Thanks a lot, sir. May I now introduce Professor Kakkar, who will be delivering the welcome address. Professor Devang Kakkar received his bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from IIT Delhi. He subsequently received his PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Massachusetts. Professor Kakkar has received several awards and recognitions for his work. He is a fellow of the Indian Academy of Science, Bangalore, the Indian National Science Academy, New Delhi, and the Indian National Academy of Engineering. He is a recipient of the Shanti Swaroop Bhatnagar Prize, the Swarn Jayanti Fellowship, and the Excellence in Teaching Award of IIT Bombay. Sir, would you please do us the honors? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sam Petroda, Dr. R. Chidambaram, Professor Raghavan, Dr. Chandra, Professor Dekne, several other dignitaries in the audience and those joining us virtually. It's really a pleasure for me to welcome all of you to the campus of IIT Bombay and to this first workshop on the National Knowledge Network. We are really very pleased that we could have the workshop in this campus. We have been very active proponents of the National Knowledge Network, and I'm very glad that so many of you could make time, and it's wonderful to see this auditorium completely full with people who have concerns and who are interested in the National Knowledge Network. As I see it, National Knowledge Network is a national asset. With the growing importance of information technology, I think this is an invaluable asset, and it's a great convenience that so many institutions are linked together with this high-speed network. Its uses are many, and some of them are obvious. For example, one is, of course, to connect to the internet. The other is for communication, and we are seeing many of our participants joining over video conferencing today. And I think this is also a very important use of this powerful network. We have used National Knowledge Network for delivering lectures. When IIT Gandhinagar just started, some of the courses were delivered from IIT Bombay to students of IIT Gandhinagar using the National Knowledge Network. So delivering lectures over the network has already been proved to be quite viable. Instead of lectures, we could also have research symposia conducted over the network. And in the year of chemistry, IIT Bombay had organized a research symposium on frontiers of chemistry, in which many colleagues joined from different institutions virtually, and several lectures were given and there was a discussion. So again, this is also another application that we can definitely think of. We can, instead of traveling to different places to attend research symposia, this is a simple way, and we can have far more frequent small symposia through the net. Another big area is data transfer. With high performance computing generating huge amounts of data, astronomy generating huge amounts of data, and of course the internet itself generating huge amounts of data, it has now become important to be able to transfer this data and analyze it. Of course, the pioneers in this are CERN, who generate massive amounts of data, and there is this concept of grid computing which is coming up. So big data is another thing that the net could definitely support. Broadly, I feel that the National Knowledge Network will help in the integration of different institutions engaged in education and research, and will promote collaboration, and hence we will be able to progress in these areas. This workshop is an opportunity to explore new ways of using the National Knowledge Network beyond these that I have already mentioned, and of course to spread awareness of the possibilities. I want to thank you all for being here. I hope that you get a chance to move around a little bit in our beautiful campus. Welcome once again, and all the best for a very fruitful symposium. Thank you.
We are honored to have Dr. Y.K. Sharma, Director General NIC, who will be giving us his views on the roadmap of National Knowledge Network. Dr. Sharma has contributed significantly to technology induction in governance over the last 3 decades. A PhD in computer science from IIT Delhi, he has worked extensively in the areas of ICT infrastructure, development of application and services, and implementation of e-governance projects across the spectrum of technology and governance. Dr. Sharma has been responsible for evaluation and overseeing implementation of all e-governance projects undertaken by NIC. He is actively engaged in conceptualizing and implementation of national information infrastructure to establish a unified and secure cyberspace for e-governance services in the country. Sir, I request you to please address the audience.
Yeah, thank you. Honorable Shri Sam Pitroda, Advisor to Prime Minister on Public Information Infrastructure and Innovation. Honorable Dr. Chidambaram, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India and Chairman, High Level Committee of National Knowledge Network. Professor Devang Kakkar, Director IIT Bombay. Professor Raghavan, Scientific Secretary to Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government. Professor Dekne, Dr. Mahesh Chandra, Mr. R.S. Mani, Senior Technical Director and Project Leader of National Knowledge Network, highly eminent and distinguished delegates from NK and partner institutions, delegates from Europe, US and Korea, my colleagues from NK and partner organizations and companies like BSNL, MTNL, Power Grid, RailTel, my colleagues from NIC, and large number of people who are participating in this event over the web, as this event is being live webcast. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of NIC, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this first annual workshop of NKN. At the outset, I would like to thank IIT Bombay and in particular Professor Devankar to offer to host this workshop and facilitate this significant event for National Knowledge Network. As it is well known by now, the concept of National Knowledge Network was first mooted at National Knowledge Commission led by Sri Sam Pitroda and the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to the government, Dr. Chidambaram. NKN was conceptualized not only as a technology infrastructure project, providing high-speed connectivity to institutions of higher learning and research, which in itself was considered a necessity at that time, but more importantly, NKN was perceived to facilitate creation, acquisition, and sharing of knowledge across different spectrums of research and learning in the country, as well in the partnership with large number of international organizations and institutions. For us at NIC, it was indeed a matter of pride and privilege that the Government of India decided to assign implementation of NKN to our organization. Since 2010, when the project was launched, over the last 2 years, as we all are aware, NKN has come a long way by establishing core backbone as well as providing connectivity to over 800 institutions across the country. These institutions represent various knowledge sectors. The vision and leadership provided by Sri Sam Pitroda and Dr. Chidambaram during the implementation of National Knowledge Network has been a major source of strength to all of us in NIC and our partner institutions. The high-level committee set up by the government under the chairmanship of Dr. Chidambaram has provided extremely valuable guidance and support in the implementation of the project, not only from the point of view of dealing with complex issues of technology, but also creating a synergy, which is the most important aspect of any large-scale implementation, creating a synergy amongst NKN partner organizations like BSNL, MTNL, PGCIL, RailTel, and many other organizations who have been part of this great effort. Both Sri Pitroda and Dr. Chidambaram have always insisted that NKN cannot limit its task to creating the infrastructure, but must focus equally to facilitate the usage of NKN in key sectors of research and applications. The 6 model projects being implemented under the umbrella of NKN provide testimony to this visionary leadership provided by Dr. Chidambaram and Mr. Pitroda. I am sure that NKN will continue the task of knowledge creation and sharing. The fact that we have large participation from NKN partner institutions in this annual workshop is an evidence of keen desire of institutions working in various disciplines to exploit the power of networking provided by National Knowledge Network. Once again, on behalf of NIC, I would extend a very warm welcome to all the distinguished delegates to this workshop. I am sure the deliberations of the first annual workshop of NKN would be extremely fruitful to all the delegates. Just a small point, Secretary DIT is likely to join very soon. He was called by the Minister at 10 o'clock. He would be with us by 10:40 or so. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was indeed insightful. NKN would continue to grow from strength to strength under your guidance. We have with us Dr. B.K. Gerola, Mission Director, E-Governance, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, who will be sharing his perspective on NKN. Dr. B.K. Gerola, a PhD in Computer Science from IIT Kanpur, specializes in strategy planning for large-scale industrial introduction of ICT in various sectors of economy and implementation of the same. He has had a very successful tenure as Director General, National Informatics Center. He has been responsible for conceiving, designing and implementing various large ITC-based projects for Government of India, with large citizen interfaces put in. NKN has gained immensely from him. His support and clarity of thoughts have translated NKN from a dream to a reality. Sir, would you please share your thoughts with us?
Thank you. Good morning to all of you and welcome from the Planning Commission office of New Delhi, where I am sitting with Sam. Dignitaries on the dais, the remote dignitaries, participants and the remote participants. I'm really delighted to be present here because this concept excuse me, of the workshop was mooted by CDAC a couple of months back, primarily because it was felt that we need to accelerate the usage of the National Knowledge Network. Over the last 2.5 to 3 years, as all of us know, this is the only project which started before the cabinet approval was given. So essentially it has almost 3 years of work that we have done. It has matured as a network, it is a reliable network, and it is a scalable network. I must compliment the designers and the implementers who have conceptualized this in a manner that can be scaled to 100 times when we need. Of course, without the guidance of Dr. Chidambaram and Sam, it couldn't have happened. We find both of them as a light for us whenever we have an issue, either in terms of money, in terms of technology, in terms of roadblocks, which we always get. They will always come and cheer us up. And I think we are very thankful to both of them for having really worked this out for us. While we have great success to my mind of NKN today, it is extremely important that we remember that we need to make sure that this network gets effective usage, without which, over a period of time, we will slowly find that the enthusiasm starts going down. The beginning of NKN had a very modest vision, namely just about two. One, which was the primary one, was to make sure that we have high bandwidth, reliable, low latency connectivity available. The second, which was added later, to make sure that we understand the type of usage that we will build, we added what is called a model project concept. These were the two initial visions that we had when we started the project. But today when we look back, we don't know exactly where to go forward. Everybody is interested in trying and connecting it to the system. For example, colleges. Why is it that we are not able to connect colleges to National Knowledge Network is a big question that's coming around. Why is it that we are not able to put private institutions into the network? Do we create a centralized system repository of knowledge so that we are able to store lectures, we are able to create a common platform for all the community to use? Do we really create a repository of the tool sets? Because these are the demands that have started coming up from various areas. And the other day Sam was telling that can we create virtual networks on top of it? So when we talk about NKN as a highway, we never thought or realized that there are many more usage that we can think of. At this point of time, I'm sure when we look at 2-3 years down the line, we will have almost all these things that I mentioned becoming a reality. Some of the areas we have already started working on. For example, the data center is getting in place, which will allow us to host the data. Some of the infrastructure is also getting shared. I believe Ministry of HRD is giving funds to get the data center up and running for education institutes. Therefore, what is required, to my mind, with this workshop is to be able to not only look at the type of applications that we built, both in terms of collaborative research, which is national and international. As all of you know, that we have connected international links. We are working with Europe, and we plan to work with US, and also going to the East. Once we have that connectivity, which is connecting us globally to the scientific community, our next step would be to find out collaborative research projects, sharing of the information, and be able to bring India at par with the global research community. I'm sure this workshop will deliberate on these issues and come up with the specific recommendations so that A, we can work on if there are any infrastructure limitations that we need to cover, and also encourage the line ministries, the departments, for example, HRD, rural development, or health ministries, to be able to bring complementary investment which is required to bring in the end-to-end service delivery which National Knowledge Network is aimed at. I think I would stop at that and wish all the best to the workshop, and once again compliment the group which is responsible for implementing this project. I'm sure if all of us believe that something can happen, it will happen, and this is a true example. I must compliment people like Raghavan, Mani, and his group, who have really worked untiringly as an emotional project for themselves to bring to the reality that we are today. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was wonderful. We are grateful for all your support and guidance. We have with us Professor S.V. Raghavan, Scientific Secretary at the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, and he would enlighten us with the impact NKN has had on the scientific community. Professor S.V. Raghavan has been a professor of computer science engineering at IIT Madras and is one of the authors of the report on e-infrastructure for science and technology, a joint effort between the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor and National Knowledge Commission, which resulted in National Knowledge Network. He has also worked as a program director for the joint effort between India and Australia for critical information infrastructure protection against distributed denial of service attacks. Sir, would you please address us?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Honorable Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, Honorable Advisor to Prime Minister Sam Pitroda, my friend and esteemed colleague Dr. Devankar, Director IIT Bombay, Dekne, Mahesh, YK, BKG, Mani, and the whole load of people whom I had the opportunity to work with at recent times. It has been a great, enjoyable journey the last few years working with NKN and seeing something very large realized right in front of you, which is close to your heart. As Dr. Gairola was pointing out, we thought we were doing a little bit of extra connection with extra speed to start with a few years ago. Then we got into applications. Then we got into grids. Then we got into international connections, harmonization of grids, harmonization of applications, and we are now looking at future, what do we do? In the process, we also realized that it is possible to generate technology that supports specifically some of these applications. And when life of these institutions, 1,500 institutions, depend on NKN, we have to be extremely concerned about the reliability, availability, resilience, and security of this network. As Dr. Gairola pointed out, we put in many of these factors into the design early on. Of course, it has fantastic redundancy, which contributes to some of these, plus internal adjustments. And without realizing what we are doing, we are actually running what is coming up in literature today in computer science research, especially in networking, as software-defined networks. Now NKN is running like an SDN. Many of you might have heard about the word software-defined radios. Now NKN is running as a software-defined network today.
We started with a very modest figure of 1 gigabit. We comfortably moved into 10 gig. And I think we won't be very far from reaching the 100 gig. 100 gigabit speed is supposed to be extremely nominal when you do big data and big science. We are extending our reach to the east and west coast of the United States, Amsterdam and Geneva in Europe, and Singapore in the eastern side. We are addressing scaling issues where large number of programs can be done on NKN without centralized intervention. Automation is one key thing that NKN is trying to practice now. For example, the virtual classroom in which we have experience for about 2 years now is maturing to a level where it will be exposed shortly as one address which looks like an IP address, where you get into the application called virtual classroom, and with a 4-digit code you choose the class you want to enter, and you will have multiple ways of getting in. It could be a small interface on your computer laptop, or it could be a large interface as you see here, or it could be a video wall. We are also trying to enable conference rooms across scientists so that they can set up their own conferences and then have interaction between them so that critical mass on any subject area develops. So once again, have a great day during these workshops and have a great experience of NKN and some of the products that are displayed outside, and do give your feedback and your concerns to people in the NKN organization so that we can take forward all your recommendations and incorporate them into the network as it evolves. It's your network and it should work for you. You should feel the personal experience of being with the network all the time, 24/7. Happy NKN. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. We really value your support. We are extremely grateful to Dr. Rajagopala Chitambram, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India and Chairman, High Level Committee, NKN, for sparing his valuable time to attend the workshop. NKN is an outcome of his vision, support, and thoughts. Dr. Chitambram completed his PhD from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, from where he also later got his Doctorate of Science degree. He joined BARC in 1962 and became its director in 1990. He was Chairman, Atomic Energy Commission and Secretary to the Government of India in the Department of Atomic Energy. Currently, he is the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India and the Chairman of Scientific Advisory Committee to the Cabinet. Dr. Chitambram has won many awards. To name a few, he has been distinguished with the Alumnus Award of the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in 1991, the C.V. Raman Birth Centenary Award of the Indian Science Congress Association in 1995, the Distinguished Material Scientist of the Year Award of the Materials Research Society of India in 1996, the Padma Vibhushan in 1999, Homi Bhabha Lifetime Achievement Award of the Indian Nuclear Society in 2006, and General President Medal Indian Science Congress in 2007. So it's an honor for you to be with us. Would you please address us?
Thank you for that kind introduction. Mr. Sam Pitroda, I think Satyanarayana is not yet here. Professor S.V. Raghavan, Dr. B.K. Gairula, Dr. Y.K. Sharma, Professor Devang Khaka, Dr. Mahesh Chandra, Mr. P.S. Dekhne, distinguished delegates to this annual NKN workshop, in which I am very happy to see my friend Dr. Alberto Massoni from INF in Italy and his colleagues who are here. we welcome you in particular and all others who have come from abroad, because I think this is an important workshop. We are holding it for the first time on a national scale, because the usage of it has now increased and the demands on it has also increased, as Dr. Gairola mentioned, that we thought it was a time to have a broader look at the e-infrastructure of India, which is the theme of this workshop. Now, when we talk about the research and innovation ecosystem of the country, there are many components, including we need young talented scientists, we need outstanding faculty, we need adequate funding both by the government and the industry, we need advanced research facilities and computational resources, in fact increasing need for computational resources. We need international collaboration as well as collaboration within the country. But now all this, it is now realized, is facilitated by electronic connectivity. This is what you mean, e-science infrastructure or the research infrastructure. The National Knowledge Network is an ambitious program of the Government of India to connect, as you heard, more than 1,500 knowledge institutions in the country, all the universities, all the national labs. The colleges come at a different layer, so we will expand to that. There are other programs also in this context. More than 800 are connected. The National Informatics Center is the implementing agency. You have seen the details about the NKN in the documents that have been distributed. You have also seen the logo of NKN. This has been designed by the Institute of Design in Ahmedabad, after talking to all of us. And you see, the first N is blue, because as you know, this is not a static technology. It is something which is going to grow, and it would require blue sky research. And all of you here, particularly IITs, Kaka, and Institute of Science and universities must think of how to the new kind of science which will become technology which will go into this. The next one is green, because the green technology. If you have your video conferencing instead of traveling from one place to another, I suppose you save aviation fuel, you stop emission of carbon dioxide, at least reduce it to some extent, because it's extremely convenient. And you see the quality of the transmission, that is taking place. And if you look at it with a little more interest, you will read KI there. This whole exercise is for knowledge integration within the country and knowledge integration across international borders. Now, Raghavan has been talking about this as a software design network, because it's already continuously evolving. The use of the National Knowledge Network, in fact, the job of our committee was only to provide the connectivity. But then we realized that the power of this, which gives you 100 times the bandwidth and more which you are accustomed to, unless we take up some model projects which are indicative of the power of this network, the high speed and the low latency, then we will not be able to use it fully. And that is why, as Dr. Sharma said, more than half a dozen model projects, some more are in the pipeline, which we have taken up here. Now, it is a very good sign that already the information technology has entered e-governance in a big way. And NIC, National Informatics Center, Dr. Gairola is there, who has led this for many years, played a very big role in it, and now Sharma. Even in some universities, many of the governance processes like processing of admission applications, loaning of books and etc. have begun to be handled almost completely through electronic connectivity. I was in the University of Kashmir in the second week of September for an NKN technical workshop which Mani organizes. We've done it in various parts of the country. And I was very impressed by the sophistication of the electronic connectivity I saw in that university, University of Kashmir. So I invited Professor Mufid Ahmed. Mufid Ahmed is here. Can you stand up and be recognized? So they have done a marvelous job. I've seen amongst many universities which have done, and I'm sure IITs have done it. This university is one of the leading ones. And what I requested him, and he has kindly accepted, to come here and talk about how IT and electronics is already, connectivity is already being used, and how the enabling through the NKN, they are now connected to the National Knowledge Network, will enable it to accelerate its use also in academic and scientific activities. As Professor Raghavan mentioned, the first use of the NKN was for virtual classrooms. Started the new IITs. When the new IITs were there were no faculty. So we said University of Madras will teach mentor University of Hyderabad until they had their own faculty. IIT Bombay, not University of Madras, IIT Madras will mentor the IIT Hyderabad, and IIT Bombay will mentor IIT Gandhinagar, as Dr. Khakar mentioned. And I have talked to the students there who are at the receiving end, and they said it is 90% as good as having a direct speaker in front of you. Because of the low latency, when you ask questions, the answers come back very fast. But they did add, once in a while the professor must come and show his face. Then we know the chap is a three-dimensional figure, is not just some kind of a fictional image. So that is necessary. Of course, you also need a local tutor. And ISERS, the new Institute of Scientific Education and Research, which have come up, and I was in ISER Mohali a couple of weeks back, and there also they are building up the faculty, and wherever the faculty is fragmented and enough people are not available, provided you can work out the logistics of it, the timing of the lectures, alternately put the whole lectures into a live cloud and people can take whatever they want. And one of the things which Dr. Sujata Ramadurai had talked to me last year from Chennai, mathematics lectures, if they are given in all these places, some of these places where they have good teachers, and all of them being accessed by all the ISERs in various places. There are 5, 6 of them. So this was a webcasting. Professor Phatak here has been doing webcasting of lectures from IIT Bombay to colleges all over. And now, once you have this kind of bandwidth that we are talking about, and multiple webcasting becomes so much easier. Probably the picture is also clearer. Maybe you can give some live demonstrations, which would be difficult to do unless you had. I'm sure you will hear Professor Phatak during this meeting. Even rural technology delivery, we have been thinking of, you take the chain research, development and delivery. As far as rural development is concerned, knowledge is there, somehow it is not getting delivered, and it has to be demand driven. Now if I think of the Department of Atomic Energy as a knowledge hub, because all of these are NKN connected, or I look at all the CSIR labs as one knowledge hub. What atomic energy, the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Dikhne is there. What he's trying to do is to take a village cluster, take an engineering college or an academic institution which is proximate to that cluster, and the entire Department of Atomic Energy is connected to this college. Demand comes from the village, knowledge requirement, whatever they require, this they are trying it in Pandarpur as an experiment, and then it can be picked up from one of these knowledge, and then in this case the DAE hub, and delivered back. And the last mile you can do, you may not need optical fiber, you may need, you can do it through Wi-Fi or even mobile. And I'm sure Mr. Sam Petroda will talk about the National Optical Fiber Network, which is going to come, already been approved by the government, and which is spread, which will reach all the panchayats in the country. Of course, it can do many things in e-governance, in telemedicine, in e-education to rural schools and all that. I think there's going to be a demonstration of this Pendarpur thing. Hopefully. Oh, you are going to conduct a class from here to the villages near Pendarpur. That will be very nice to watch. And then you see, you can create. What we have done is to create specific grids. You have a brain grid. When I was in McGill a couple of years back, they had a program of connecting all the brain research institutions in Canada through their network, which they call Canary. And if you want to exchange MRI messages of patients, clinical data on patients who are suffering from, let's say, Alzheimer's, and then all the data is available to anybody who wants to do research. And they call it the C-brain. Professor Alan Evans has done a wonderful job at McGill. Of course, Montreal is famous for its very good neurological institute across, go up the hill, there's the institute. So at that time I said, if you have the C-brain, I'll have my I-brain, India brain. Connect all the brain research institutions in India who can also exchange all this data, MRI and any other data. Because, that kind of image data requires a lot of bandwidth. And then things like Alzheimer's, dementia, or other kinds of brain. Vijay Lakshmi Ravindranath and Prasun Roy. I think there is a demonstration or some kind of a presentation. Then we have a cancer grid. This is a thing in which you have enormous amount of data, which can be exchanged in this process. Now, as Dr. Gairola said, we started this project in 2009 without any funds really. It was inaugurated by the President of India because we had the infrastructure already. We had the NICNet, which was providing already the connectivity to start with. And I'm sure some of the NLDs are here, service providers, BSNL and RailTel and Power Grid and MTNL. And they said for the first period, maybe a year or so, we will provide our services free. So there's a wonderful thing. In fact, the virtual classrooms connecting IITs, we started without more or less any funding directly into the project, which came through. But we had the blessings of the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was very keen that all the knowledge institutions must be connected through one single high-speed network. Of course, we have already had the grid, Garuda grid. Rajat Muna is there, which has been in operation for a long time using the ERNet. Now, Rajat, this is migrated to NKN, I think. And of course, they are connecting computers. So I've been requesting him to stick to supercomputers. Now, everybody has a smaller computer, you don't have to worry about that. But all the big computers, if you can make available, particularly to the universities, and also the large data. See, we had this finding the signatures of the so-called God particle, which is not the God particle, the Higgs boson. It's only a boson. One of the things that gives masses to the particles if they are created with the Big Bang. And there are two detectors which detect. We found all the data for that: CMS and the Alice, CMS and the Atlas. And Tata Institute of Fundamental Research was leading a group of universities in India, which was getting all the data from the CMS. CMS, as I said, is one of the detectors, compact muon solenoid, getting the data from this Large Hadron Collider, and that data came through the National Knowledge Network. Because the massive amounts of data transfer. See, today we are going to look at more and more on this big data experiments or transfer for other purposes. Now, we are also thinking in terms of, India is one of the mega diverse countries. Biodiversity is very, very high. And we are thinking of a national biodiversity grid. And the next, maybe tomorrow, you will hear Dr. Pisupati Balakrishna, who is the chairman of the National Biodiversity Authority. I didn't cite him today. Maybe he's coming tomorrow. Is he around? I don't think so. He's not yet come. So we will be hearing. So that you see the usage of this is increasing very, very rapidly. Then also live access to the synchrotron source in Grenoble, the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility, ESRF. My friend Hosur is going to give a demonstration here. He's a protein crystallographer. Sends his protein crystals to Grenoble. He's put on the robotics arm. One by one these crystals come to the X-ray beam line and the data is transmitted back. And the entire group which is watching can decide which are the crystals which are the best quality, which give the best diffraction data. And once they have put it there and have oriented it, then the whole thing starts coming over here, transmitted directly. All because of all these are now possible. Even our own major advanced facilities, the tendency is going to come to put a robotics arm there so that it can be used by other scientists who are not very close here. One of the model projects is a very interesting project. It's in IIT Bombay. This is what we call the inline casting simulation system, eFoundry. Dr. Ravi, where is Dr. Ravi here? Is he around? He's going to give a talk about it. He's there. Good, Ravi. So I'm going to, in fact, inaugurated it a little before lunch. Is it okay with you? We have fixed the time at about 12:30. So there are many things one can do. What you can do with this network really depends upon your imagination and your innovation capacity. And as the demand grows, as Professor Raghavan mentioned, it is a scalable network. As the demand grows, we will raise the... see, the whole thing is there's a backbone network with 31 super pops or pops. And from that we reach out to all the edge institution. And then, of course, the edge institution must also use it very effectively. That is why RS money, of course, the NIC has grown, though Dr. Gairola was very modest about talking about it, has grown under his guidance. NIC, I think, has done a remarkable job as the implementing agency. And the driving force behind that is RS Mani. You all know him. I'm not going to ask him to stand up. Anyway, can you stand up, Mani? Where are you? You are standing there already. You are kind of supervising all what things are happening over here. So, and you know, at the edge institution level also, you must have people who provide user-friendly connectivity to all the scientists. You must have a local area network which is secure. Of course, we'll take care of security of connecting to the national knowledge network. And as I said, the NLDs have been very cooperative. And we are also going to use this platform to indigenize electronic hardware products. We have missed out in manufacturing across a broad front, and also on electronics hardware. So the government is changing this, how to build more and more electronics and IT products. The policies are in the offing. One of the professors here, Ashwin Gumashte, where is Ashwin Gumashte? I saw him coming in. He has demonstrated something outside. Ashwin is there. He is down. He is up and he is down. Probably near the product he is demonstrating, just outside here. He and the Electronics Corporation of India have come out with a router. It's an excellent product, commercial product which is available. So I'm sure many other things are going to come here as we start this process of manufacturing indigenous electronics and IT products in the country. Many people have contributed. Raghavan, Tekne, they're all members of the Technical Advisory Committee. There are other members. And it's drawing in international attention. The internet too of the United States United States has a number of optical fiber networks, the Lambda Rail, there is Energy Department, ESNet is there, but Internet too is a very big one. And in the spring meeting in Arlington, they had asked me to give a talk on the Indian RENs. And we could connect from there because of the NKN, half a dozen labs in India with scientists sitting there looking at how this can be used for Indo-US collaboration. Of course, collaboration with Europe has been very strong already. I'll come to that in a moment. And we could talk as though we were talking just like that. People talking to each other and so on. And they did say that they were very appreciative of the way this is growing. The Indian National Network is growing, and they were also very keen, as are our scientists, to increase the e-connectivity through our networks between, say, NKN and Internet too, with the United States. NKN EU grid connectivity has also been very strong. Alberto Mussoni, I mentioned to you before, and DICNE have played a very leading role through it. First it was through the ERNet, and now they have migrated. Or you India migrated first, DICNE, first ERNet, and then you migrated, no? Or was it in the... ERNet was initially coordinating this international... Coordinate. Now, because they wanted a much higher bandwidth. Of course, we have been connected to CERN for a longer time. Because CERN experiments, before the LHC, they had, what is the electron-positron collider, and all that data was also coming here. And this kind of demand for connectivity, when the similar things we should start doing on the eastern side, is now growing as we grow, as Indian science also begins to grow. There will be a discussion on chain day after tomorrow. This is a project which aims to extend the European e-infrastructure, particularly the grid infrastructure, to other regions of the world. The broader aim from India's point of view, which I consider very important, to harmonize the global e-science infrastructure, e-research infrastructure, to facilitate international research collaboration and big data sharing. Just I was sitting here, Dr. Prabhu was telling me, Didi, that there is also an interest. You will be talking about it during the meeting? INRIA, between INRIA. INRIA is a very leading center. I remember visiting the center maybe 20 years back. Next door is Marcel Dassault, the aircraft guys, and they are doing a lot of work for designing new kinds of aircraft. You will be talking, I'm sure, more about it. As you see, these are things which are providing us enormous opportunities, this kind of electronic connectivity which National Knowledge Network presents. And I'm sure during the workshop you will share your experiences with it, and you will also have an idea about how to use it more and more, and correspondingly the thing will be scaled up. NKN is a 10-year project. We established the network, and then it will be run for it's a very well thought out project. Thank you very much for your hearing. Thank you.
It was wonderful hearing your thoughts, sir. Thanks a lot for being a part of NKN. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. J. Satyanarayana, Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, has now joined us. Can Mr. Tripathi please welcome him with a bouquet of flowers, please? National Knowledge Network is the brainchild of Mr. Sam Pitroda, Advisor to the Prime Minister of India on Public Information Infrastructure and Innovations. Currently Advisor to the Prime Minister of India on Public Information Infrastructure and Innovations, Mr. Pitroda is widely considered to have been responsible for India's communication revolution. As advisor, he is looking into creating information infrastructure for enhancing delivery of services to the citizens in various areas and will also be working on creating a roadmap for a decade of innovation in India. He is also the chairman of National Innovation Council. His strategy of using telecommunications in nation building has been internationally acclaimed. In the 1980s, Mr. Pitroda, as advisor to Prime Minister Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, helped transform India's telecommunications and information technology infrastructure. He was the first founding chairman of the Telecom Commission in India. He also oversaw national technology missions related to drinking water, literacy, immunization, oilseeds, and dairy. In those roles, he helped transform India's developmental policies and philosophy. Sir, would you please address the gathering?
Thank you. Dr. Chidambaram, Mr. Satyanarayan, Dr. Garola, Dr. Raghavan, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Khakkar, and I see in the audience two of my friends, Dr. Pitke, Dr. Phatak, Dr. Mani. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed a special privilege to be with you all, to really basically celebrate the development of National Knowledge Network. I want to compliment everyone who worked tirelessly for the last 3 years in getting us where we are. It has been an interesting journey so far, and I believe we have a long way to go. I would like to take this opportunity to essentially comment on two areas. One, need to enlarge scope of knowledge network, and two, need to expand usage. To me, this is a significant initiative by the UPA government. Unfortunately, government gets very little credit for these kinds of bold initiatives. I cannot think of any government today who would be willing to spend the kind of financial resources we have been able to put in to NKN and other major networks to essentially enhance our efforts to democratize information. This government is committed to really creating the right kind of public information infrastructure that can provide unique opportunities to our young. Knowing that we have 550 million young below age of 25, knowing that they would need new tools and new technology to create new opportunities for the future, government has not only focused on building NKN, but is also spending huge amount of money in providing connectivity to 250,000 panchayats. Dr. Chidambaram talked about it a little bit. This program has been in the work for about 2 years. Now we have started implementing it. I am told 55 panchayats would be connected to optical fiber, broadband and all that with hundreds of megabits of bandwidth in the next 30 days or less. And then we will begin to experiment with applications here, while in parallel the program to connect 250,000 panchayats will go on, and we hope to complete that by next 18 months. Along with this, we are also creating open source platforms for UID, National GIS, cyber security, variety of applications. Mainly NIC is working on these applications. Payment, procurement, and related data centers throughout the country. When I put together all of these efforts, I'm convinced that no one else in the world has ever done something of this magnitude that we are trying to attempt. Sum total, my guesstimate is that we will wind up spending about 100,000 crores in all of this. We already have about 10,000 software engineers working on this. So the NKN, in a sense, becomes the mother of all the networks. We got to connect panchayats ultimately to district. We need to go from block to district, which is sort of the missing piece that we are focused on right now. And then NKN has to really integrate all of these networks nationwide. In a sense, NKN is the mother of all networks in India. So how do we focus on really enlarging the scope of this network? Is going to be the challenge going forward. What we started with is not going to be similar to what we end up with. So when I look at e-governance programs and see the fact that we are going to be computerizing all our courts, so we need to create virtual network for judiciary. We'll be computerizing all our police departments. We need to create virtual network for police. All our 1,500 odd prisons, virtual network for prison. So all these virtual networks will have to ultimately integrate into NKN. And this is going to be a great challenge. I am confident that the talent we have today with Dr. Raghavan, Dr. Mani and many others who are dedicated to this task will provide us the direction we need to really enlarge the scope of this network. I think our journey has just begun. We need to really recognize that for training, huge amount of video would be required. Peer-to-peer video is going to be a major challenge. I give my own example. I have a 20-month-old granddaughter, and we Skype every day. She's in San Francisco. I Skype her from Delhi every day. Can you imagine all grandparents like me trying to Skype their grandchildren, and what kind of bandwidth we would need in India? I think we need to look at the growth out in the next 5 to 10 years. And NKN will have to not only enlarge, but also will have to equip ourselves with the huge bandwidth demand that I see in the short next 5 to 10 years. 2, we need to really learn to expand usage. We are now really using it for classrooms, lectures, some research. But I think we need our young to come up with new ideas on applications. Don't expect that to come from people from my generation. New applications will require new thinking. And I want to challenge our young in 20s and 30s to really come up with great new ideas, whether it has to do with new games for learning something, or it has to do with new ways of teaching mathematics. I think we need to put our brains together to really expand usage. The other day I was talking to our young team, and they immediately told me, they said, why don't we have once a month lecture, inspirational lecture, once a month on NKN at all 1,000 locations simultaneously. So we get prominent people, Nobel laureates, experts, to spend an hour or so talking about their journey, interacting with students, and at the same time broadcasting this to not 500, but maybe 50,000, 100,000 young students. I think a lot of work is required to really focus on expanding usage. Finally, to do all of these things, we'll have to innovate. We'll have to innovate in creating new products, new services, new opportunities. And NKN should really be the tool to innovate. All innovations today require multidisciplinary approach, great deal of collaboration, and lot of computing power. And I believe we have all of these things in NKN. To me, this initiative is going in the history as a game changer for India. If we are to build new India, NKN is the first seed that we have planted. Let's see how we all put our brains together to use this new tool to build India of the future. With this, I want to thank organizers for giving me this opportunity. I want to compliment once again all of the talented people and institutions who have put in long hours on this. I am delighted that you are all here together, and I hope to work with you, learn from you, and make NKN a real fountain of knowledge and opportunities and innovations. With this, once again, thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Your words are and will remain a source of inspiration to technologists the world over. I would now like to invite Professor P.S. Dekne, Consultant to the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India and former Associate Director E&I Group, BARC, Mumbai, to please share his thoughts with us.
Good morning, all of you. Respected Sam Petroda, Advisor to Prime Minister, Dr. Chidambaram, whom I would like to always address as sir. I have been working with him since 1982, and when I go outside only I know his value, otherwise I always take him for granted and we converse very easily. By Dr. B.K. Gairola, who was with us till last week, working very hard on NKN. Now he has taken over as the Mission Director E-Governance, Secretary DIT, Professor Raghavan, whom we have been interacting right the day one, actually right from the conceptualization to design and then realization. We are all been together. Y.K. Sharma-ji, who has just taken over NIC, but of course we have been interacting since NKN has been started implementation. Mahesh Chandra-ji, again we have been interacting since long, and of course all of you should always remember the last person on NKN, Mani, who is the whole force behind this implementation of National Knowledge Network. Respected distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. It's very bad on my part to talk after Dr. Chidambaram and Dr. Sam. Nevertheless, now since I have been given the opportunity, I just will say a few words, because whatever is required at higher level to be talked about NKN, all has been talked. The ground reality is going to be discussed in the next session when Mani will be talking to you about the actual network, what is it, how to use it, what are the services, and all those things. So you will learn more about NKN in the next session. So when we initially planned this NKN, idea was basically to see that the NKN is utilized properly, and the best way is to collect all users who have been using NKN, and users should share their experience with other users. That way we feel that the dissemination of knowledge is much easier and much faster. So that is what the idea about this workshop. So if you see the workshop, basically except the first session, all other sessions are devoted to the actual applications which users have implemented themselves, and we try to catch hold of the actual user who has developed the application to come forward and deliver the talk. So you are going to hear most of these applications which have been going to be discussed in the subsequent sessions directly from the people who are involved in implementation and the development of this particular application. It was very surprising and quite pleasure for us that so much overwhelming response has come. As you can see, this hall is full, and then there are upstairs 3 halls which we have extended facility. Even those halls have become full. And we thank all delegates for this very, very warm response, and we hope we live to your expectations as time progresses. As was mentioned, this is the e-infrastructure. The theme was e-infrastructure, and as initially we thought we'll have only 2 things, which was very important. Actually, I was leading this network for hydrogen collider, WLCG network in India, and we are trying to connect to CERN for getting the data from the CERN. Such a heavy data which required to be brought in and disseminated across all the scientists in India. And we first faced the difficulty of connectivity between India and the CERN. And that time in 2006, when the first LSC network started operational in India, we were paying 20 crore rupees for the 45 Mbps bandwidth from Bombay to CERN. And the cost was so exorbitant, it was shared between 4 departments. So DIT really came forward. The AirNet was there. That time we had an offer from Europe to connect to Europe for basically the dissemination of the education knowledge. And then DIE had this particular project, and DST came forward. So all 3 departments together shared 20 crore, because that time 20 crore was thought of a very large amount, and it was not easy to get that 20 crore for about 100 scientists who were that time really were using the LSC network. And many people thought, why to spend so much of money, what kind of research going to come up? But I am very happy to say what kind of research which has come out of LSC is well known to all world. You have witnessed that people have already come out with the first existence of the Higgs boson particles, which is going to explain a lot of other phenomena which has happened. I'm not really going to go in details. Definitely we have the talks directly from the scientist who has been working on this, Kajuri Mujumdar. She is going to talk on how is this CMS detector and the CMS experiment has helped in detecting Higgs boson. Then actually that time we realized that it's not easy to set up a network, because we have to have dedicated network, and if you have to cover the entire country where most of the scientists are spread right from Jammu and Kashmir, where we had the users up to the Kerala state, and connecting them requires a huge amount of money. If you have very 100 users, not only the international connectivity, even infrastructure within the country was very, very bad. And when we implemented, we found it very tough to keep the sustainability of the network. So much failures, and each user or each vendor will try to blame other vendor about the problems. And that's how actually we thought about this particular network. Dr. Chidambaram was the chairman of the Science and Technology 10 plan projects, and he told me, why don't you give a proposal for the grid? So initially we put up the proposal, and simultaneously I was also fortunate to be a member in the Planning Commission initiative. And then we joined together, because we thought this kind of large amount of money no country is going to give. But because of support from these 2 stalwarts, Dr. Chidambaram and Dr. Sam Petroda, we got the nod from the Prime Minister, and as was mentioned, first 1 year we implemented a project with 57 connectivity without any funds. And we proved what we call POC phase, proof of concept. We demonstrated after a year in 2009 April, where President inaugurated, and most of the things which today you are seeing were demonstrated in 2009. Subsequently, of course, the major problem, as everybody knows, the reliability, sustainability is also important, but main thing was the bandwidth and the latency, because when you are working with a remote connectivity, response is very important. If it's going to response is going to come after minutes or few hours, nobody is going to wait. So that is why the latency was one of the major thing, and the bandwidth. So that's why we thought of having the whole network based on only fiber. The whole NKN the philosophy was to have fiber, and of course, as you can realize, putting fiber gave us the opportunity to have the network which is scalable. Today we have connected IIT on 1 Gbps, and they overshoot this bandwidth. Initially they were not able to use even 30%, and as we discussed with various users in IIT, the usage has gone within 6 months from 30 to almost 100 Mbps and more than 100, and then we have to immediately connect another. So now IIT today we are connected to 1 gigabit network, and even today they are confident they will be able to consume this bandwidth very soon, and that's how the scalability we have thought is very important. That with the fiber you can start with 1G, you can go to 10G, you can go to 40G, and you can go to 100G. Of course now 40G has become irrelevant. People are jumping to directly 100G because of the technology cost. And in whole technology, most important thing is the cost. So when we planned the network, we thought nobody is able to afford that time the cost for the bandwidth, and any proposal put up will be shot down because of the kind of money required. So we thought this network should be funded by government, and users should not be charged for the bandwidth. And that's how we have started with NKN, where users are getting the bandwidth 1G, 2G, 2.5G or even 10G without any money, and this facility will be available for a few years. Then we'll see really if the really users comes up and there is a good application build up, then we'll think of how to charge reasonably so that we can sustain this. This whole project is for the 10 years. It is going to be till 2019. So we want to be sure that till that time, such time, this network will be sustainable, maintained till it finds a new kind of applications. And as you can see, this e-infrastructure is not just a network. It is not just computing. It is not just storage, or it is just not the software. It is the integration of various technologies. As you can see, we have got the infrastructure, hardware, network, then the software, operating system, over which we have put a grid, and above the grid, wherever there is good community. Actually, grid is very useful when there is a community research is going on, like typically of LSC or weather forecasting or the brain grid or biogrid. Many of the grids we have found where there can be community of people or scientists who want to work on a same goal. So in that case, the grid becomes very, very essential, very important. Then user doesn't have to do anything. It is totally transparent to them, including the end application. So users can just drive the application the way you drive today on Google. On a Google, user doesn't have to write a single line of a code. Everything is available to user most transparently, and that's how it should be. And we want to make sure that ultimately NKN services will be invisible to the users. It will be transparent, and users should be able to use NKN without writing a single line of code. Of course, somebody else has to work for it, and as the respected Sam sir has mentioned, there are lots of people, intelligent people available in India. So people who are going to use NKN, they are going to be developers of this. And as Raghavan has mentioned, why he talked about the software defined, because basically once infrastructure is there, applications can come up if you have got a software definition of it. What is the end application? What is the deliverables? So over the infrastructure what exists, you just define your software and define your objectives and define your deliverables, and that can be added on top of it by someone, not necessarily by the users, and then the whole thing can become transparent. So software-defined configuration or software-defined infrastructure is a sort of, you can say, the catchword which we are going to sort of use very often. So any user, any application you think of, will just have to add a software-defined module, and NKN will be useful, much more useful to the end user. And that is very, very important to have this. And important also is the another aspect is that as you have seen the whole NKN, the whole idea was you can't have a national highway for only a single or only for VIP. The highways have to be used by more people, different kind of people, from all kind of transportation should be possible, and that's how the NKN was conceived as a multidisciplinary infrastructure which can be shared by any kind of users. Today we have got opportunity to talk to doctors. What doctors need and what education people need or what other people need, they are totally different. And doctors may not be able to talk to you in a language which computer engineers can understand. So you require a lot of interfacing, a lot of discussion with the user, what exactly he wants to achieve using this ICT. And there is a great deal of work required to be done between user and the computer scientist, what we call the software definition, so that user will be able to utilize this whole network very, very effectively. So I'm not really going to take more time now because everybody has spoken about it, and you are going to hear much more, you are going to see much more in the applications during the session. And as you can see, this whole session today we organized such a way, there are people available also on the remotely who can participate, not only on the dais, not only just give you a sort of vision, but also the people who are all across India. This whole thing has been live webcasted, and it is available throughout the country. People are watching the whole the convocation or whole function which is happening here today throughout the country. So I am very happy and also to see that all of you, all delegates, you get a chance to interact with all experts which are available here. You will never get chance to get so many people around in so many disciplines. So it's a good opportunity to interact with these people. Don't hesitate, you talk to everybody and try to find out. And you will get first time opportunity to talk to doctors, particularly for computer people who never interact with them. And also it will enrich your knowledge, that's what we expect, and expose you to new ways of carrying out the infrastructure usage, or what we call ICT enablement. Now another thing is coming up. As an individual, you should be knowing, I think all of you must be knowing, volunteer computing. If anybody has a computer and he wants to find out that there is a computer usage he is not able to use fully and there is a lot of computing power available, so he can come forward, we can connect them on a NKN, and we can create volunteer computing where your computing power, unused power, can be tapped by someone else who is interested. With this thought, I will leave you, and I hope all of you will learn in 3 days, and your feedback is very important. We like all of you to give us feedback to improve the NKN. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. That was very informative. We are honored to have Mr. J. Satyanarayana, Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, who will be sharing his views on NKN. A member of Indian Administrative Service from 1977 batch and Andhra Pradesh cadre, Mr. Satyanarayana has made wide contributions in the field of e-governance. Founder of e-Seva, a one-stop shop for citizen services, he was responsible for mentoring NISG as a center for excellence in e-government consultancy and capacity building. This led to the formulation of e-governance and capacity building roadmaps for the state governments and union territories in India. He has been instrumental in training the political leaders and policy makers on the concepts and principles of e-governance. Sir, would you please share your views on NKN?
Respected Dr. Shyam Pitroda, respected Dr. Chidambaram, and all the dignitaries present here in the important event happening today in Mumbai. First of all, let me compliment the entire team of NIC under the leadership of Dr. Chidambaram and Dr. Pitroda to have made it possible to establish such a large and powerful network like the NKN with over 885 connections today. Now, Dr. Pitroda in his message has emphasized the need at this point to enlarge the particular program of NKN on two fronts, namely on scope and also on the usage. On behalf of DAITY, I would like to mention the possible areas of expansion of the usage. We have recently come up with two policies, that is one on the electronics and other on the ICT policy.
Now, there are 4 different areas, large requirements in which we could put the NKN to use. First of all, there is a need for enhancing the quality of the education in the IT and electronics segment. So the faculty development is one approach for this purpose. We are thinking of establishing 25 ICT academies in the existing academic institutions in the country, and it could make use of effective use of NKN. The second area is the scheme for enhancing the number of PhDs that we are currently producing in the area of electronics and IT. So, for this research program, which is of an ambitious scale of over 2,500 PhDs annually by 2020, so we need to ramp it up over this period, and then we can make effective use of the NKN in this regard also. The third aspect is to do with encouraging innovation and product development, both in the commercial software development as well as software development within the for the government in the e-government space. We can make effective use of NKN in this area as well. And last but not least is the need for us to look at this point of time in terms of National Information Infrastructure 2.0. What is the next level and next stage to which we take this structure to? For instance, the blocks and districts are today connected at a bandwidth of either 2 Mbps or at best 8 Mbps, whereas NKN talks in terms of gigabytes. A kind of a level difference between these two, and we need to work out so that there is availability of bandwidth up to the block level of a higher order. And also we need to design the NII 2.0 in such a manner that we have the infrastructure on demand, applying the concepts of cloud. How can we leverage these concepts and create a situation where two advantages come? One is infrastructure on demand. Second one, we are optimally utilizing the scarce resources through the shared platforms and shared infrastructure. So on this occasion, I would like to once again compliment the entire team of NKN, and I would like to assure the full support and assistance from the Department of IT in this regard. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. We are truly grateful for all your support. We are pleased to have with us Dr. Mahesh Chandra, Deputy Director General, NIC. Dr. Mahesh Chandra completed his BE from the University of Roorkee and went on to receive his PhD in the area of computer-aided design. He served as a coordinator for the UNDP-sponsored CAD project, which was responsible for setting up 5 CAD centers across the country. He has been a member of the working group on civil aviation for the formulation of the 12th five-year plan. He has been a recipient of prestigious awards like Scotch E-Governance Award 2012, CSI Nihilent Award 2011. May I now request Dr. Chandra to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you. After attending this inaugural session, I'm at a loss for words because all of them whom I'm going to thank, they have been part of NKN, whether it was conceptualization, implementation, encouragement, or involvement in designing and other aspects of NKN. So basically I'm going to thank the hosts, not really the audience and the participants. Dr. Sam Pichoda, Dr. Chidambaram, Sri J. Satyanarayan, Professor Raghavan, Dr. Garola, Dr. Sharma, Dr. Dekne, dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasant duty and proud privilege to propose a vote of thanks at the conclusion of this inaugural session. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Sam Pitoda for his views on NKN future, namely expanding the scope and building applications and possible interconnections with a very ambitious program to link our blocks called NOFN, National Optical Fiber Network. We are all inspired by your great words. I may like to express a sincere thanks to Dr. R. Chidambaram for giving his vision on creating appropriate research infrastructure in our institutes of excellence, and also giving us the concept of model projects and concept of knowledge sharing and collaborative research. Thank you very much, sir, for that. I also wish to express my gratitude to Sri J. Satyanarayan, Secretary, Department of Information Technology, for providing his views on creating synergy between NKN and 4 thrust areas of DIT, namely the faculty development in ICT or IT, R&D, product development, and national information infrastructure. I hope we would be able to bring in the synergy you have just suggested, sir. I am grateful to Professor S.P. Raghavan for his analysis of software-defined networks and automation as related to NKN. Thank you, Professor Raghavan. And for the first time in my 30 years career, I would like to thank my erstwhile boss, Dr. B.K. Gairola. I have never formally thanked him for elaborating on the genesis of NKN and its utilization in application areas, especially e-governance, and perspective planning as related to NKN as to where we are leading to. I would like to thank the host, Professor Devang Kakkar, for kindly agreeing to co-host today's workshop. We are grateful to them from the bottom of our hearts for the wholehearted support extended by them for the workshop. A special thanks for Professor Gumaste and his team for co-hosting and helping in setting up the infrastructure and also accepting to demonstrate the product developed by him and his team. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our heartfelt thanks to Professor P.S. Dekne for the invaluable support and continuous effort provided by him for organizing this workshop, and also giving us a glimpse of events planned in this workshop. Once again, I would like to thank somebody from my own group. I am thankful to Seema Khanna here, who has accepted this role of comparing this. I'm sorry we will not be able to provide you any ex gratia for this. She's a technical director and looking after the messaging service at NIC. So you know, if your messages don't reach NIC, whom to beat. I'm also thankful to the speakers who have accepted for our invitation and are going to present live demos or demonstrate their projects for the audience in this 3-day NKN annual workshop. Last but not the least, I must thank, people call him doctor, let me say Dr. R.S. Mani. and his team. They are the force behind NKN. And I'll be failing if in my duties if I omit their name. And the entire team working with him on NKN for conceptualizing this workshop with Professor Dekne and his team and making it a reality. Thank you once again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, sir. I would now like to call upon Mr. D.K. Gupta, Member Secretary Organizing Committee, and Mrs. Savita Gawali to present mementos to the dignitaries as a token of our appreciation. Mementos for Mr. Sam Pitroda, Mr. Satyanarayanan, Dr. B.K. Garola and Dr. Y.K. Sharma will be delivered to their office, sir. We are extremely grateful to all our guests for sparing their valuable time. It was indeed wonderful to have all of you with us today. We would request everyone to kindly join us for tea. We have a session on NKN e-infrastructure starting from 11:45. I would please request you to be seated back by 11:40. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Oh, what's the time? I'm sorry. Revised timings, we'll announce it. Please take the teas only for about 20 minutes, so I would request you to come back as soon as possible. At times I've got a little haywire, sorry.